Why are there Christian denominations? If you look around at the churches around you, you'll see all sorts of them. You'll see Baptist, Presbyterian, Methodist, Catholic, Anglican, and then even in all of those little categories, there's other little sub-denominations. So we're Southern Baptists, and there's Missionary Baptists, and Independent Baptists, and Free Will Baptists. There's all sorts of different ones. So why can't we just be called Christians and just leave it at that? Well, the fact is, we live in a fallen and imperfect world, and in that fallen world, sometimes it's important for denominations to help us show where people stand on some key issues. Denominations help us actually to have unity around the most important issues, while also being able to function in a healthy way around some of our disagreements. Now, to understand how this works, we have to know something about Christian beliefs. There are different levels of Christian beliefs that you might put into three different tiers. So a first tier Christian belief is one that is essential to being a Christian. If you don't believe this core belief, then you should not be calling yourself a Christian. This is something like the gospel, that we are saved by the death and the resurrection of Jesus, by putting our faith in him. If you disagree with that, you have no business calling yourself a Christian. So that's a first tier issue. Then there's second tier issues that are really important, but we can disagree on them and still both be Christians. So an example of this is baptism. So Presbyterians believe that they should baptize their babies by sprinkling their babies. Baptists believe that only believers who have accepted Christ should be baptized, and they should be baptized by immersion. This is a really significant disagreement, but we have lots of Presbyterian brothers and sisters who are Christians. They love God. They're amazing believers who are filled with the Spirit. They're wonderful. We just have a disagreement about a pretty significant thing. And then there's third tier issues. And these third tier issues are things like our end times theology or something like that. You can disagree on that and still function okay in the same church, and it's really not going to make too much of a difference in our church life. So most of the denominations where denominations split are on these second tier issues. There's a few that might disagree on first tier issues and still call themselves Christians. We need to be aware of some of those. But most of these denominations just disagree on second tier issues. It's usually about something like baptism, or maybe it's about something like church government. They believe that the structure of pastors and their relationship to their congregations, and some different denominations have a system where multiple churches are actually under the authority of one over shepherd that is above multiple churches. And so they look at these church governing structures differently. That's an important thing. But we can disagree on that and both be Christians still. Now, the importance of denominations is that it allows us to look and see and recognize, okay, I disagree with this person on some important issues, but I can still call them a brother or a sister in Christ. So there are many good, godly, Bible-believing churches that are in different denominations than we are in. We agree on the essential theological truths that make us Christians, but we disagree on some other stuff that would make it difficult for us to function as a church body. So we can learn from these other people in a lot of ways, and we can disagree on some other things, and they can learn from us. But, sometimes we split and we divide the church when we don't need to, but other times it can be good for us to recognize, okay, these people are godly, Bible-believing people, but they do things a little bit differently than us. And so we are going to fellowship in one context while they fellowship in another. So there is a healthy way for us to have some boundaries that help us to be unified on key essentials of the faith, but also function healthily within our church congregations.